Like a Dragon Yakuza is an Amazon show which is based on Yakuza, a game series that has 8 games and 8 spin-offs. The main game star Kazuma Kiryu. Now, the main problem I have with the Yakuza show is that it changes the source material too much to be a faithful adaptation. It changes the characters, the story, and the character dynamics, where it's basically its own thing with the Yakuza label over it. And I think it's very bad to newcomers and long-term fans. So I'll be going over it episode by episode, explaining why it's bad as a standalone show and bad for long-term fans. Now, I personally have played every Yakuza game except for the Infinite Wealth and its spin-offs like the Pirate game or Dead Souls. So I have a pretty good grasp on what the games are about, and I've enjoyed most of the games. But watching the show, I feel like it's a abomination of sorts of Yakuza 0 and Yakuza 1. Kiwami. Whatever, I played both of them. I'm gonna give a quick little synopsis because this episode's pretty long. The show starts out with Kiryu, this guy right here, and he's reminiscing about his days of a child, doing what any normal child would be doing, watching an underground coliseum match and saying, I want to be that guy.
All I wanted was to be a dragon.
Of course, it's completely reasonable for a child to see a guy fighting and say, you know what, I want to be the guy whooping ass, even if it means I have to join the Yakuza. Because the show completely redefined what it meant to be the Dragon of Dojima from the games. But I'm saving that for later. Of course, this story starts from the prison, to the flashback of Kiryu as a child, and to a flash forward, but not too far, to a heist scene, in which our 4 protagonists, Kiryu, Nishiki, Yumi, and Miho, so I guess they changed Yuko's name to Miho, just to avoid the confusion between Yumi and Yuko. So anyways, these adolescents contract the help of a biker gang to help steal the money from this arcade. With the distraction of the biker gang, Nishiki in his disguise causes another distraction with the threat of fire. Of course, while Nishiki gets the money, his dumbass gets caught. Of course, in typical henchman fashion, he shoots and misses every shot. But then, Kiryu shows up from out of the blue to save Nishiki. Now this is the man who has been the face of the Yakuza franchise for 8 games. So what does he say in his first appearance in the show?
Wait! Time to say bye-bye, Junior. Bye-bye.
So Nishiki and Kiryu get the money and leave and head back to the Sunflower Orphanage because, you know, they're orphans. It's at this point where the Yakuza show makes its biggest mistake, where most storytellers go to the 8th layer of hell right next to O.J. Simpson to burn for all eternity.
With this, we bid the old man goodbye. Always working me like a dog. Rules upon rules, just holding us back.
Do orphans really have to stay here their whole lives? Screw that, man.
Yeah.
We shouldn't talk bad about Opo-san only.
Yeah, I got you with that. Finally getting out of here. Kazuma the prick. About time we moved on from the tyrant.
So, we're finally free.
Freedom. We're free!
Freedom!
Stupid. Hey.
So in this scene, the characters explicitly tell the audience about the rules they face under Sunflower Orphanage and the constant oppression under Kazuma's tyranny. My problem with this is the characters having to explicitly tell the audience about their discontent with being an orphan, with the rules they face from their caretaker Kazuma. Instead of showing it naturally in the show, maybe they could have had a scene where them living in the orphanage before the heist, showing their discontent with the life they live. Anyways, I'm going to paraphrase what happens afterwards because this episode feels extremely long. So Kiryu tries to leave the orphanage and he gets stopped by an orphan, and then he realizes that Nishiki, Miho, and Yuki haven't actually left the orphanage, which is bad because the arcade they actually robbed belonged to the Yakuza, so the Yakuza is looking for them. And then they find them. So they get their asses whooped, and then Kazuma comes and saves them. And then he gets revealed that he has some ties to the Yakuza, and the Yakuza know his name.
This guy ain't no joke.
You too. Let him go.
Huh?
And take off your shoes.
And then, in a move of excellent brilliance, Yuki comes up and admits it was the four of them.
Did you plan all this?
It was all four of us.
What a fucking nun. She wasn't even under suspicion. Not even the other one, not even Miho, bro. Maybe only like Nishiki and Kiryu. Like, they were the only ones under suspicion. She was like, oh, Kiryu and Nishiki's gonna get taken by the Yakuza? Oh, you're gonna have to take me and Miho too. Like, fucking took Miho down with her. What the fuck? So Kazuma goes to get dressed because he wants to look good when negotiating the lives of his four orphans with the Yakuza. And of course he's meeting the head honcho, the chairman of the Yakuza. Oh, what the fuck? The goon got fucking dressed off screen. You think he just went to his fucking house to get his suit? They go to the Yakuza HQ and they gave Kazuma a little bow, but they stop him. They give him that hand on his chest and they go, "You're not getting in. You're not getting in. That bow I just gave you? Nah, I didn't mean it. Fuck out of here, prick." We get introduced to Dojima, the head of the Tojo clan, and he basically tells them, I'm gonna execute you guys for stealing money from me. And then Kiryu's like, nah, I could be of some use. I'm gonna be the dragon of Dojima. And Dojima just tells him, you don't even know what that word means.
No fight. To be the dragon of Dojima. Oh my. That meaning isn't lost on you. Dragon of Dojima. He's the clan's winning fighter. Groomed for greatness. With the dragon, Dojima clan controlled Kamurocho. A pissant like you knows all that? I lived in Kamurocho as a kid. One day I saw him fight. I can still see the tattoo on his back. I remember that day. I want to test my strength as a fighter.
Now, the differences between the show and the game become apparent here as major plot points and character dynamics change from this point. For example, Kiryu wants to become the Dragon of Dojima in the show, but in the games, he wasn't really aiming for that and just became the Dragon of Dojima by fate. Even though Kiryu claims in the show that he wants to be the Dragon of Dojima, he doesn't really do anything to chase after his dream. He isn't shown to train at all. He doesn't do any muscle training or fucking practice martial arts. He just gets a power amp out of nowhere by some secret Kazuma told him during the fight. But before that, there's this weird scene between Kazuma and Kiryu. To give some context, Kiryu asks the Dojima guy to give him a fight so he can prove himself as a fighter so he can work in the Yakuza. However, if he loses, all his orphan friends would die and get sold on the black market.
Why didn't you talk to us first, man? So you're just gonna leave us behind?
Stop!
We're supposed to be family!
Of course, Nishiki is more mad about Kiryu wanting to join the Yakuza and leaving them behind, rather than Kiryu talking them into an arcade heist, but failed to mention that the arcade was owned by the Yakuza. Boggles the fucking mind why he gets no accountability for this, and that like none of the characters ever bring it up.
Told you my money.
I can win the fight. Huh? I'll win and be the dragon.
And then what?
Then I'm gonna change the shitty world.
It's hard to believe that this character is an adaptation of Kiryu, as he lacks every single trait that makes Kiryu, well, Kiryu. Now, I think this character is very selfish, as he wants to become the dragon at Dojima, and to do this, he talks his friends into doing a heist of the arcade owned by the Yakuza, so he can get the Yakuza's attention. And I think the worst part is that he doesn't tell them it's owned by the Yakuza, so they don't get a correct evaluation of the risk involved in the heist. Now, it could be argued that he was only doing that to save his friends by saying, "Oh, I take responsibility. I only did it to show you my abilities." And it's hard to confirm whether he purposefully removed the mask so he could get caught later on. But I take his words at face value because this show is more tell, don't show, as opposed to show, don't tell. For example, they tell you that Kiryu wants to become the dragon. He says it himself, but doesn't show to be doing anything to become the dragon. Doesn't do any training. Anyways, I'm gonna start paraphrasing the show a bit because these episodes are so jam-packed with content. Like, there's so much going on at once. And I think this works against the show because it just confuses the viewer with all these things happening at once and fails to put any of it in focus. And I think it's because the first season is going to have 6 episodes, so they don't have a lot to work with. They tell such an expansive story like Yakuza. Now it's time to speed run the episodes, since I want to actually get this video in under an hour. Kazuma comes back and shows him that he cut off his finger, which is a tradition to atone for mistake, but I guess the show doesn't explain it here. Which isn't too bad, since I guess they're trying with the show don't tell type thing. But then even so, after doing that, Kiryu still goes like, "Fuck you, old man, you're not even my father." The orphan's calling card telling the parental figures they're not even their real parents. The problem that I have with this scene is that it changes Kiryu's and Kazuma's character dynamic, because in the game, Kiryu and Kazuma had a bond as thick as actual blood relatives. Whereas in the show, Kiryu and Nishiki despise Kazuma because he's a tyrant to them and that he puts a lot of restrictive rules on them. Which to me sounds like it's just basic parenting, and we don't really get shown any scenes depicting that. So we return back to 2005 because Kiryu is leaving early from prison because he gets a pardon, and Dante, the detective, tells him, "You gotta return back to the Yakuza, man. We need you to stop a war." A war between the Tojo clan and the Omi Alliance, because the Omi Alliance suspects that the Tojo clan stole 10 billion yen from them. Now this does raise a couple of questions. Number 1, what were the Omi Alliance doing moving such a large sum of cash? And number 2, why did the Omi Alliance immediately point towards the Tojo clan? Because you gotta remember, these are 2 large factions that want to avoid war because they don't like the costs of war. They don't want their men dying in mass, or their lieutenants and their ranking officers, whatever, it doesn't matter. So they must have some pretty solid evidence to prove that it was the Tojo clan that stole their money. Spoiler alert, the evidence is so fucking shit. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Let's continue because this episode is still really long. I gotta talk about the writing in these scenes because the writing kinda sucks in some of these scenes. Check this out.
Tire slush fund. Sounds like a cool 10 billion yen.
That is quite the haul. But I wasn't in on it.
The guys know me.
This is such a weird scene because of 2 reasons. One, that Kiryu answers to an accusation not even made. He says that he wasn't even in on it. No one even said that he was in on it. And number 2, no one would even think that he was in on it since he's been in prison for a better part of 10 years. So how would he even have a hand in this heist of 10 billion yen?
Seem to think the Tojo clan had something to do with it. So I'm asking you. Commit to the Kokudo again. You could prevent a war from breaking out.
You gotta be kidding me. Come on, you believe this guy?
Date seems to believe that Kiryu has the power or maybe the influence to prevent a war by involving himself with the Yakuza again. I just hope that later down these episodes we get shown why Kiryu deserves the title of Dragon of Dojima instead of like fucking up in the Yakuza multiple times, which he does. Date tells him that Nishiki is running Tojo clan and that Yumi isn't on the straight and narrow, implying she's doing something illegal, and tells him that he's leaving him a gift outside and ends the conversation there. I just wish they spent more time talking about the Tojo clan and Omi Alliance and like fleshing their organization out instead of just mentioning their names, expecting the audience to know what they are. And part of this is because they don't mention the Tojo clan or Omi Alliance much at all. And the only reason why I know what the Tojo clan and Omi Alliance are is because I played the games. And I know the Omi Alliance is basically the equivalent of the Tojo clan in Japan's Kansai region in the west, as opposed to Tojo clan's Kanto region in the east. And both of them are at odds because they see each other as competition and they want their territory. So Date leaves Kiryu, ending their conversation, and we get our first look at Kamurocho, and what the fuck is that eyesore? Now, for those not acquainted with the Yakuza games, that is the Millennium Tower, a key landmark in the Yakuza games, or Kamurocho, whatever. And in this one, for some reason they made it look dystopian, bro. It doesn't even look pretty, it doesn't even look cool, it looks dystopian, like the Citadel from fucking Half-Life, dude. What the hell? Anyways, Yumi is shown making the rounds, managing her hostess club, which is a club where men pay to spend time with women. No, it sounds sad, but you know, it's Japanese culture and whatever. It's, you know, different nation. And Yumi's with her Bluetooth earphones talking with Nishiki, and Nishiki's going like, we gotta talk. You know, Kiryu coming out of prison, we gotta talk about it.
Kazuma is getting out.
I don't care. I have no intention of seeing him.
I'm going to watch over him.
Are you insane? The higher-ups won't appreciate that.
Make sure they do.
Look at my gown, I ain't go to play. I'd rather die before I come in life.
I'm going to offer a rhetorical question. If you change the game's characters, the plot lines, and the character dynamics, then is it a real adaptation? The answer is obviously no, it's not a real adaptation. But you can hardly blame them for not being able to conform to the original story since they are only working with 6 episodes for the first season. But you might be asking yourself, why am I bringing this all up? The issue is them not being able to put all that content into the show. The issue is them changing everything that made Yakuza, where it gets to a point you ask yourself, why did they put the Yakuza label over this show if it's nothing like the games? And at this point, they make their biggest change from the games by making Nishiki want to take Kiryu under his wing and protect them from the Yakuza since, you know, he killed his boss and all. As opposed to the first game where Nishiki develops an inferiority complex to Kiryu when he's gone, partly added for the Dojima family, constantly reminding him that he's useless and unfit to be a leader. And basically when Kiryu gets out, he's a vengeful person who doesn't like Kiryu and wants to beat him up.
Nanda, いるんじゃねえか。おう、組長さんよ。またしのぎ広げることになったからよ。金使わせてもらうぜ。おい、こら、聞いてんのか。こっちがせっかく動いてやるって言ってんだぞ。てめえ、いい加減にしとけよ。返事もできねえのか、は？ な、おめえはどこまで下手なんだよ。たく、まだ連れのキリヌが根性あったぜ。ま、奴がやっちまったことはまずいっちゃまずいとしても、キリは誰がヘタレだって？誰が桐生よりも根性がないんだって？メイドの土産に教えてやる。堂島組長をやったのはこの俺だ。覚えとけ。一人殺すも二人殺すも同じじゃねえか。そうだ、そうだよ。とっくに道は決まっていたんだ。堂島を殺し桐生を見捨てたあの時から。やってやるよ。俺は必ずてっぺんに立ってやる。そのためなら何人だろうがぶっ殺してやる。
I think even as a standalone series, if this was completely disconnected from Yakuza, it's still not good on its own, because you got the storyline in the past where it's the orphans fighting for their freedom and paying off their debt, and in the future it's the war between the Tojo clan and Omi alliance and them trying to avoid it. We return back to the past with Kiryu fighting against a boxer to prove himself to Dojima, and to cut a long story short, Kazuma whispers something in his ear and then he gets a power amp and he beats the boxer and knocks both of them out. And Dojima's like, we're gonna send the two women to work in the club's arena and we're gonna send Kiryu to work for us, but Nishiki, worthless! Throw him to the street, to the wolves. I want his organs on the black market tomorrow. Nishiki finds out he didn't make the clan because they only taken the best, which was Kiryu since he beat up that boxer, and then he runs around with a knife and wants to cut off his finger to show them that he's serious about joining the Yakuza. Then Dojima comes in and he says, okay, I'll let you in the Yakuza. Then we return back to the present, where Date and Nishiki are in a meeting, and for some reason a detective can organize a meeting with the lead figure of the Tojo clan and Kamurocho. I mean, I guess they explain it with, we're no strangers to each other, but that doesn't make any sense. Why would you let this guy in here? So Date wants to talk with Nishiki about the Omi alliance and 10 billion missing yen, and then Nishiki just goes, I don't want to talk about it. And Dante leaves, and while he's leaving, he's like, oh, what's up with Kiryu? Who's gonna meet him, since, you know, he killed your boss and all? And Nishiki just feigns ignorance and he leaves, and then they come in with evidence of the person who stole the 10 billion missing yen. Of course, they have cameras in the middle of nowhere, conveniently where the truck with the 10 billion yen is, capturing the heist and the perpetrators. Of course, they're gonna do the enhance image, zoom in thing they always do with these cameras. So who is the perpetrator who did this heist and is responsible for bringing the Tojo clan and Omi alliance on the brink of war?
Is that Aiko Sawamura?
Yeah. Yumi's older sister.
Now, I did mention that a question that arises from the missing 10 billion yen was that why did the Omi alliance immediately accuse the Tojo clan of stealing it? And I still believe that this evidence is pretty shit, since it loosely connects the Tojo clan as an organization to the theft of the 10 billion yen. Because Aiko, who's completely unrelated to the Tojo clan, is related to someone who's loosely connected to the Tojo clan, because Aiko is related to Yumi, and Yumi donates funds from her establishments to Nishiki so that he maintains power. And since Aiko stole the money from the Tojo clan, she's connected to Yumi, who gives money to Nishiki, who is in the Tojo clan, so that means the Tojo clan stole the 10 billion yen, which is a loose connection to the Tojo clan. and doesn't seem substantial to initiate war against the Tojo clan. So Aiko is shown schizoing out, trying to change her appearance to hide from the Omi and the Tojo. Yumi is shown trying to reach out to her, and Kiryu steps out of prison to be met by thugs from the Shimano family. Of course, Kiryu declines to go with them to go see Shimano, and they don't let him decline, so we finally get to see our first fight from the Yakuza show at the end of the first episode. I don't count the boxing match fight as a real fight because, you know, he got a power amp out of nowhere. I don't really care for it. It doesn't look cool. Some of this fight scene looks really cool, you know, really badass, but, you know, sometimes it looks kind of silly. But then it picks itself back up. After beating them up, he takes their car and finds Dante's gift, which is a phone and a bag. Now, this raises a couple of questions. One, how did Dante plant that there? And number two, how much influence in the Yakuza does he really have, since he can organize meetings with the leader of the Tojo clan seemingly out of nowhere? But I don't think we're gonna get any answers to those questions, since I watched the other two episodes and they don't offer any explanation. So Dante calls him up and tells him who's responsible for the theft of the 10 billion yen. At this point, I guess everyone in Kamurocho knows he stole it. Seriously, how do you plan one of the most biggest heists, stealing nearly 100 million US dollars, and then get caught on seemingly a security cam where everyone has access to it, where the Tojo clan has access to it, the Omi Alliance, who's in a different region, has access to it, and this detective, who doesn't seem anything special, has access to it. But to be fair, he is investigating the Yakuza for like 10 years. Yumi and her driver gets jumped, her car falls off a parking garage, and the episode ends right there. All in all, if I had to rate this show as a standalone series, I would rate it an honest 4 out of 10. Now, the reason why I give this rating is because where's the world building of the Yakuza? Kamurocho is a fictional city, alright? There should be world building. I mean, take this scene for example, where Nishiki is getting fired upon by the security officer in the arcade.
Seriously, what do you have there? Oh shit, wait!
This is Kamurocho, my friend.
Wait!
Time to say bye-bye, Junior.
Kamurocho in the Like a Dragon show has just been relegated to just a location in the story. There isn't any world building done upon it, and the Tojo clan in the show has just been relegated to Yakuza instead of their own unique entity.
Did you know the Dojima clan owned that arcade?
Are you saying that we stole money from the Yakuza?
Why didn't you talk to us first, man? So you're just gonna leave us behind?
Stop!
We're supposed to be family! This is crazy. Kazuma's a fucking Yakuza? We got mixed up with Dojima money.
Hey! Kazuma Kiryu, right? Shimano would like to see you. I'll bet. I'll pass. Hey. I said we'll give you a ride.
They say their names like one-off statements, like the audience is supposed to know and remember who they are. Let me drop a picture of what the audience is supposed to know and remember from this information. You got the Tojo clan in its subsidiary families, Shimano family and the Dojima family. I don't think the Kazuma family exists anymore because Kazuma isn't doing anything anymore. He's washed, they already said that. And the Nikoyo Constortum, I don't know if it's going to show up, but I don't think it exists in the Yakuza show. And all of that information was supposed to be gathered from these one-off statements. They might expand upon this later in the episodes, but I already watched them. And I don't think they expanded much on Kamurocho and the other families much. Or even do anything to explain what they are and their relationship with Kamurocho or even the world around them. Before we move on to episode 2, we're gonna have to talk about some of the changes made in episode 1 that will affect the series as a whole. The first being that Kazuma is a retired Yakuza. Now this means two things. Number one is that the Kazuma family doesn't exist, a main opposition to Dojima's goals in Yakuza 0 and the 1. This means that Kazuma is relegated to a side character with little to no control over what's going on in the Yakuza. Which is a stark difference because in the 0 and the 1, he had massive influence over the events. In the 0, he was in prison, but he still had control over the events with Kiryu's help. And in the first game, he is regulated to this genius mastermind who helped in the theft of the 10 billion yen, protecting Yumi from the Yakuza, and Jingu, who was one of the main antagonists in Yakuza 1 because she was involved in the theft of the 10 billion yen. And working against the goals and interests of the Shimano family as well as the Nishikiyama family. With Kazuma no longer being in the Yakuza, this also changes Kiru's story as well. Because as it is explained in the Zero, Kiru and Nishiki's main reason for being in the Yakuza is the respect, the money, and the confidence Kazuma gained from being in the Yakuza.
なんでだよ、おやつ。俺らの道は俺らが自分で決める。今さら善人分だよ。あんたもヤクザなんだろ。だったら俺らがヤクザになるのを止める資格なんてねえじゃねえか。キリュウ、俺たちはずっとあんたの背中を見て育ったんだ。いい車乗って肩で風切って周りの人間に頭下げられて、そういう人間になりてえって俺たちがそう思っちゃいけねえのかよ。
Now compare this to Kiru's reason for being in the Yakuza show. Now originally I was going to play a clip from the Yakuza show, but I realized that the clip I was about to play didn't actually contain the reasoning for Kiru wanting to be a Yakuza. Because Kiru became a Yakuza out of occasion. He didn't go and become a Yakuza or ask to become a Yakuza. He became a Yakuza because that was his way out of stealing Dojima money. Either that or he was really obsessed with being the Dragon at Dojima because he really wants to be the Dragon at Dojima after seeing him fight at such a young age. However, that doesn't explain why he wants to become the Dragon at Dojima. He only says what the Dragon at Dojima did for the Dojima family, which was being their strongest fighter, and with the Dragon at Dojima, the Dojima family controlled Kamurocho. However, Kiru doesn't want to be Yakuza, he just wants to be the Dragon at Dojima, which is a critical difference from the games because Kiru in the games did not want to become the Dragon at Dojima originally, he just wanted to be Yakuza. Because at the time of Yakuza 0, when he joined, the title Dragon at Dojima wasn't yet created. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but just know that there was no such thing as the Dragon at Dojima when Kiru joined. He just kind of took up the mantle after the 0. But with Kiru in the show, he's just obsessed with becoming the Dragon at Dojima, but not with becoming a Yakuza. In the 0, Kiru in the games was always arguing about what a Yakuza was with his opposition.
お前に一ついいことを教えといてやる。極道ってのはな、ボクシングとは違え。喧嘩に負けたやつが敗者になるんじゃねえ。最後まで張り続けらんなかったやつが負けるんだよ。ああ、そうだろうが。極道の世界に KO はねえ。俺はな、キリ。指の1本や2本なくそうが、阿波野や渋沢に頭取られようが、そんなことは構えしねえんだ。命ある限り何度でも這い上がってやる。だからよ、てめえみたいな半端もんが一番許せねえんだよ。死ねやボケや。後悔するぞ。今俺をここで殺せなかったらな。
さっきあんたが言った通り、俺は極道を張り続けなかった半端もんだ。風間のおやっさんはきっとそれを見抜いてたから、俺が極道になることを許さなかった。本物の極道ってのは多分あんたみたいな男なんだろう。それでも俺は半端もんなりの意地、最後まで貫かせてもらう。
キリュウ、てめえ。
あんたが何度俺の前に立ちふさがろうがな。キリュウ、 俺はクゼとは違う。極道としての生き方なんざどうでもいいと思ってる。いい飯食っていいもん身につけていい車でぶっ飛ばす。たまには女もつまみ食いしながらな。俺にとっちゃ極道なんて職業はそういった人生を楽しむための手段に過ぎねえ。これでも俺は仕事に抜かれねえんだな。さあどうするキリ。表に出て蜂の巣になるか、それとも俺と楽しい夢一緒に追いかけるか。答えはおめえに決めさせてやる。決まってんだろ。俺は行く。何？あんたは揺さぶりをかけたつもりかもしれねえが、死ぬか生きるかは大した問題じゃねえ。何言ってんだてめえ。あんたが楽しいかどうかで物事を決めるのと同じ。俺は好きか嫌いかで決めるだけだ。俺が行く理由はただ一つ。あんたと組むのが死ぬほど嫌だってことだ。キリ言ってねえ。
I'm not gonna mention the rest because I'm lazy. Moving on to episode 2, I'm going to give less critique since I already made most of my critiques in episode 1 to the series as a whole. And I want to get through these episodes quickly because these episodes are 40 minutes long and there are 6 episodes in this season. Last we left off, Yumi's car took a very high fall from the parking garage. While nearly unconscious, she gets a flashback of the Sunflower Orphanage. But while the flashback's not all that important, the most important takeaway is that she still thinks about Kiru.
How far are we going? Doesn't matter where we go, as far as we can. Yumi!
Yumi.
Anyway, she manages to fend off her pursuers with a revolver she found in the car. And the Yakuza leave because they hear police or ambulance sirens in the background. Then Kiru arrives in Kamurocho.
Bro! Bro, I've driven on this road! Bro, show the sign there. Bro, I've driven on this road! Calm down, you're gonna jump the I've driven on this road! You're gonna jump the fucking gun and blow us out of the way! What are you doing?
And Kiru takes his first look at the new and improved Millennium After this, Kiru goes out to get a new fit at the store. Of course, he would go out and get his iconic white and red suit, while also caving someone's skull in the process. He leaves and does whatever this is. Like, is he flipping him off? I don't know what he's showing him there.
43,000 yen.
What's going on? You think a grown man would have a little more respect?
I'm just gonna assume he just robbed the store at this point. Dante takes Kiru back to the station to tell him the massive changes that Kamurocho underwent. The only changes mentioned was just that the Tojo clan's number 2 was murdered at a restaurant.
Oh, I guess you didn't hear about that. The demon of Shinjuku. Demon.
Dante thinks that this demon guy was behind Aiko's heist of the 10 billion yen stolen from the Omi Alliance. He doesn't say anything to support this claim, he just says he's behind it, or thinks he's behind it. It also brings to us the fact that Aiko runs this manga cafe that is used by the Tojo clan as a money laundering operation, and while managing it, she sells drugs to kids on the side who are in the manga cafe, and she does this to pay off her debts. Now, I didn't catch this the first couple of times reading it, and I had to rewatch it a couple of times for me to understand the situation. So this is all the information the Yakuza show expects you to encode and retain following the next couple of episodes. You got all that? Good, because we're moving on. Anyways, Dante wants Kiru's help to help him look for Aiko and try to prevent a war between the Tojo clan and the Omi Alliance over this 10 billion yen. Because obviously, a big war between these two big criminal organizations would result in a lot of people getting caught in the crossfire. But Kiru? Nah, he don't give a fuck. He walking out of there until Dante tells him something very important.
Didn't Yumi Sawamura get roughed up the other day?
That's what I heard.
It's very odd to me that Dante thinks that Kiryu can do something to prevent these wars, but we're not even shown what Kiryu can do. He's been 10 years in prison and he thinks he can help him look for Aiko in a completely different city than where he was 10 years ago. So it makes no sense to me why he'd be seeking his help other than his legendary status. And we aren't really shown what he's done to earn this legendary status from episode 1. All he's done is win one Coliseum match, but maybe they will show what he's done to earn his legendary status in this episode. Anyways, we're shown that the Yakuza are put to work real hard doing household chores. They do more chores, get accepted into the Yakuza, and we move on to them moving into Kamurocho. Afterwards, we move to this scene where Dojima is giving this pitch about a new and improved Millennium Tower where people can eat, work, and play in this Millennium Tower. I will give the Yakuza show some points here because in this episode there's been more humor. Some of it's sort of subtle with this guy under the table controlling the lights on the Millennium Tower. He tries to give this pink guy the sales pitch, but the pink guy just goes, "Nah, you're just greedy. I would never give my land to you." Cosmo tries warning the guy that, "Listen man, this guy, Dojima, bad news. He's the head of a criminal organization. You're fucked." And then the pink guy just goes, "Nah bro, I'm a cautious man. He will never get me, And he gives this plot point to this chick that sits down next to them. We get shown that Yumi is not very good at her job. She can't talk to these clients. But Miho's absolutely crushing it at her job. And by crushing it, let's just say her liver. We return back to Kiryu and Nishiki, who are finally doing something and are stealing the deed from the pink guy. They break into his vault and they get a couple of weird things, but they find the deed. Unfortunately, they don't find the little stamp thingy, which they need. I forgot for what reason, but they need that for the deed. The pink guy is on the move. They need to get the stamp from him, so they go looking for him, but he's on the move. Kiryu walks out looking for the pink guy, and we see Majima and Sanjima walking into the club. We don't really see what they're doing at the club. They just walk in, but Nishiki follows the pink guy into the bathrooms, and he swears he was here, and it seems like he wasn't conscious enough, if you know what I mean. And by what I mean, let's just say he was murdered. I was trying to be clever there, but I couldn't think of anything. Now, for those people who haven't played Yakuza 0, this plot point draws a lot of inspiration from Yakuza 0, with the pink guy being a stand-in for Tachibana. But the problem with this story, or copying this story I see, is that they don't have enough time to go over the story effectively. They don't get to present it the same way that Yakuza 0 did. Yakuza 0 had like way more time to tell more captivating story, and for the Yakuza show they have less time and have to water down the original story in order to fit within this 6-episode season. Like Kazuma, Tachibana went from a genius mastermind who rivaled the Yakuza both in strategy and in force, who worked against the interests of the Yakuza, that being the acquisition of a deed of a big construction project that would gain them a lot of power, or the family who acquired it.
いいでしょう。ですがその前に、あなたはこのカムロ町という町を何と見ますか？
カムロ町？さあな、質問の意味がわかんねえ。
私はね、桐生さん。この町は堂島組をはじめとする登場界の餌場であると見ています。一晩中ネオンに彩られたこの町に集まる人や金。そこから溢れる甘い汁は、すべて登場界の極道たちに吸い上げられる。
何が言ってんだ？
登場界が力で光り輝かせるこの町に、私は 風穴を開ける人間です。こんな風にね。
なんだと。
嘘だろ。
金は力。私は自分の力がこの先どこまで登場界に迫れるか試してみたい。ですがまだまだでしてね。
They turned that into this.
Don't worry about it. I'm a very cautious man.
Don't underestimate Dojima.
I hear you. You have my word, Kazuma-san. I'm treading lightly.
I only realized this after rewatching the clip. They killed him, then gave him the swirly. Either that or they gave him the swirly, then stabbed the shit out of him. Could have even happened at the same time. I don't know, these Yakuza creators are just like that. So Dojima is really upset about them botching this job because even though they got the deed, they still messed up getting the seal, which means that the deed is practically meaningless. So Dojima's like, send in my top guys, Majima and Taiga Saejima. They're gonna get this fixed. They're gonna make this right. So Kiryu and Majima get into a small scuffle. Nothing really comes out of it. It's pretty meaningless. So they go back home and they find out that their boss, not Dojima, like I guess their mini boss, got arrested. And this basically meant that Dojima has let them to hang out to dry. Basically, they're gonna let the cops get to them and they're not gonna do anything to stop them. Kazuma comes to check on Miho and tells her, bro, gotta take care of your kidneys. And tries to convince Miho to come back to Sunflower Orphanage where he can actually take care of her. But for some reason, Miho just says, thanks, but you're Yakuza, even though you said you hated outlaws. I don't know, this whole interaction just seems odd and out of place. It doesn't make any sense. Because Kazuma is saying, hey, come back to Sunflower Orphanage so I can take care of you. But Miho just says, yeah, but remember when you said you hated outlaws, but you were actually Yakuza? And like, says nothing afterwards. She just says that.
Come back home. At Sunflower, I can keep an eye on you. There's still room.
Thanks. But you always said that you hated outlaws. I never thought you'd be Yakuza.
Hello?
Hello? Hey.
I wanted to record a message.
Calm down.
So the pink guy's sister calls him, told you he was a stand-in for Tachibana, and says that my brother's dead. I need to get out of this crazy place. Kazuma just says, don't worry, just stay in hiding. I'll figure something out. Unfortunately, Miho overhears this, and Nishiki knows that Miho knows something, so he starts interrogating Miho for information. After Nishiki finds out that the pink guy's sister has the stamp, he goes tells Kiryu so they can go looking for the girl and regain Dojima's favor so they stay out of prison. Surprise! It's just Nishiki visiting Yumi at the hospital. Anyways, this isn't even important at all. Let's just skip. Oh wait, they do mention that their attackers have a Kansai dialect, which is basically code that the Omi did it because the Omi control the Kansai region of Tokyo, so Yeah, it was definitely the Omi who attacked Yumi. Anyways, Nishiki walks with this old guy who's telling him, chat, we have to stop this war. Too many people are gonna die on our side. And then Nishiki just goes, don't worry, I'll handle it. If you give me special permission to do whatever I want with Kiryu. And he goes, yeah, that's fine. And Shimano steps up to say something, and the old guy just goes, hold on, fuckhead. When did I ever ask for you, huh? Fuck out of here. And we finally get another look at what Aiko is doing, you know, Yumi's sister. And guess what? She's here with another massive plot point. Haruka. Alright? Now, if Haruka isn't important in this show, they messed it all up. This was their last chance, and they messed it all up. Alright? So Aiko is raising Haruka, and Aiko goes out to go get Haruka some donuts because she wants them. And surprise, surprise, the Oni comes in and starts raiding the manga place because she's looking for Aiko or something. So Haruka goes and hides in the bathrooms, and then someone starts approaching her. So the Oni mask people fill the manga cafe with a gas to try to get Aiko out, but I guess they just give up halfway and just blow the place up. Fortunately, Kiryu and Haruka are able to get out. Unfortunately, Aiko doesn't know that and just assumes that Haruka is dead, because there's no way a tiny little girl could survive that blast. I guess the key takeaway here is that Aiko may have not been working with the Omi Alliance, or the Omi mask people, or the Shinjuku Demon. Any of those people at this point. Either that, or they decided not to let Aiko spill the beans about their schemes or something. Maybe cut loose ends. I don't know at this point. At this point, the series is currently incorporating Yakuza 0 and Yakuza 1 plot points. That being the families rushing to acquire that deed to gain power in the construction of the Millennium Tower. And from Yakuza 1, it's about the missing 10 billion yen. However, this time, instead of being 10 billion missing yen from the Tojo side of things, it's now 10 billion yen missing from the Omi Alliance side of things. Changing the story from infighting within the Yakuza to trying to prevent a war with the Omi Alliance. Now, obviously, they can't tell the Yakuza 0 story effectively, and neither can they tell the Yakuza 1 story effectively, given the time they've been allotted. So they can do neither story justice and its game adaptation form, so they change the story massively for it to fit within their time frame. Which sucks because it misses out on every key feature that made the Yakuza games really good narratively. And for the Yakuza show, it makes it really bad to miss out on all those key features. For example, missing out on the Tachibana and Yakuza power struggle is something I'm very upset about. I like the Zero games, and I like to see that in the show, but except they had a stand-in guy who died getting a swirly, got done dirty and even dirtier, and the changes they made to Kazuma absolutely strips him from everything that made him good. Like Tachibana, he went from a genius mastermind to a bumfuck nobody who can't change anything in the story. He couldn't save his orphans from getting executed. He got that hand on the chest and Kiryu had to fucking con his way out. The father-son bond that he shared with Kiryu and Nishiki is absolutely gone now because Kiryu hates him and Nishiki hates him for being such a tyrannical guy.
I was supposed to raise you all like a father! So hit me. Go on, then. Come on, hit me. My father died a long time ago.
Hey. How are you doing?
What's it to you? You aren't my dad anymore, are you?
This from the guy who can't take care of his sister? Not much of a brother.
What the hell was that?
Stop it. Not right now, please.
I think it's very odd that Kiryu and Nishiki think this, despite the fact that Kazuma came back to take care of Miho after her kidneys took damage from that consecutive alcohol consumption she had at her job. There isn't really any indication why they have this hatred towards Kazuma, whether it be from them being in their adolescence and hating an authority figure, or any external scenes that would support this tyrannical behavior with Kazuma back at the Sunflower Orphanage. So it just seems like forced conflict when there isn't really any conflict to be shown. When I say conflict to be shown, I mean like conflict back at Sunflower Orphanage, not after they left. Because it leaves us very confused why they wanted to leave Sunflower Orphanage so bad and go to Kamurocho. Alright, time for episode 3.
Mommy, stop! What are you doing? Stop, please! Yumi, don't go in! Mom? Mommy? Mom! Mom! Mommy!
I think it was a very poor choice to choose Mad World for this very serious scene because of its notoriety that it has, you know. I'm saying that because it was, you know, popular on Vine, you know. Over 8 million views, and I couldn't focus on the serious scene because of that song, because, you know, it just has that very funny connotation to it than that sad connotation. I think of it more as a funny song on like a old Facebook meme rather than a serious sad song. So that's why, you know, I couldn't take it seriously. So Aiko assumes that Haruka is dead because there's no way she survived that huge explosion. So Kiryu brings Haruka to Yumi because he couldn't find Aiko. So Yumi begins interrogating Haruka about the whereabouts of Aiko because she went MIA as soon as the explosion happened. She gets angry with Haruka because, you know, she's a child and can't properly answer her questions, so she stops asking her questions after Kiryu stops her. So Kiryu comes to see Nishiki and he comes out and actually sees him. They share some sake and they go like, "Man, it's good to see you, homie." And then Yumi comes out and says, "I know a guy who can help us find Aiko." While on the way to this informant, Kiryu reminisces with Yumi about how she searched for her sister 5 years ago. To cut a long story short, from her club that she worked at, she found this guy who told her she knows a guy that knows her sister. So she goes all the way to go see him, but hold on, we gotta cut that story short. We're with Kiryu and Nishiki now. No, I get kind of ticked off every time they cut off one story just to fit in another one in and cut them in between each other. It doesn't make any sense to do that. You can just show one story and then show the other flashback separately so I can focus on one and focus on the other equally instead of just cutting between each other. And narratively, it doesn't make sense to show this other flashback since Kira was bringing up about how Yumi searched for her sister that one time 10 years ago. So Kiryu and Nishiki track down where the pink guy's sister is, but surprise surprise, they see Majima and Taiga Saejima pull up to look for the guy's sister too. So the pink guy's sister goes on the move. Majima and Saejima enter a standoff with the clerk about her whereabouts. Kiryu and Nishiki try snooping on them, but they get caught by the janitor. So they detain her, but the pink guy's sister just slips by them and they chase after her. And Majima and Saejima notice this and they chase after them too. This results in a long ass chase scene, but once she gets cornered, she starts letting off shots. And some of those hit. Kiryu goes to disarm her and Saejima starts lighting off shots. And then the chick shoots him precisely. He gets knocked down and tells Majima, you know, just focus on the mission. So Majima takes his gun and starts shooting at them and then starts getting into a shootout with the police and then chases after them. I just feel like this was all just very forced. You know, Saejima shot at Kiryu for no reason when he was disarming the girl. It just seems like a very lazy way to write out Saejima out of the story. So Majima actually manages to catch up to them because he shot the chick in the leg, causing them to slow down. So Kiryu and Majima get ready to fight in one of the most forced fights in history. You know, writers have to rub their brain cells together to figure out, how do we get Majima and Kiryu to fight in the past? This fight, for the most part, is pretty alright. It has its moments.
You know, I've never lost in one-on-one combat.
Let's go!
Jeez.
You're done. Don't do it. Put it down!
What? Huh? Shoot me then.
Can't do it, can you? Shoot me! No fair.
After beating Majima, they try to find the Honko, but they can't, so Nishiki loses his cool. But before anything actually happens, the police come in, so Nishiki and Kiryu dip. So the cops come in, and by cops, I mean this one singular cop. And this cop is actually evil. He works for the Yakuza, and he brings the Honko that the girl has to the Yakuza. And since he brought it to the Yakuza in such a weird way, he gets a cool nickname, the Florist of Sai.
I get you. Yeah? You're a guy who'd shake down the dead. Long as you get your piece of the pie, isn't that right? Charging to cross the Sansu River.
Like the ferryman on the riverbank of Sai?
You need a name. I'm gonna call you... something fitting. The Florist of Sai.
Thank you very much.
Because he's so greedy, he'd shake down the dead, like as if he was charging money to cross the Sansu River, which is a boundary of the living and the dead in Japanese Buddhism, like the ferryman on the riverbank of Sai. Again, it just seems like a forced way to call him the Florist of Sai. You had to go through all those hoops to call him the Florist of Sai, which was just a conversation they had by chance, instead of, you know, keeping the original reason why they called him the Florist of Sai, which was because he delivered information through flower bouquets, instead of just being called that by Dojima. Because none of these characters can earn their names through being proactive. No, they gotta earn them just by being called that by other characters. Like the Florist, delivering information? Nah, he just delivers the Honko to be called the Florist of Sai. Kiryu, he's called the Legendary Dragon of Dojima for no apparent reason so far in the series. Remember, we're halfway through the season, and all he's done is mess up 2 jobs, because the first job, he only got the deed, not the Honko, and they needed both. And on the second job, they screwed up getting the Honko. The Florist of Sai had to come in and get the Honko himself. So both Kiryu and Nishiki are shown to be fuck-ups in the story and don't do anything to earn their legendary status in the story. And also, I forgot to mention my favorite part. Dojima's getting chewed up by his supervisor because, you know, he's messing up getting the Honko, which they desperately need for his construction project. So they find Dojima, and he's still pissed because the scene where Dojima receives the Honko from the Florist of Sai happens right after this, so he's still mad that he doesn't have the Honko.
Okay. I guess that... I don't believe you.
Majima! You know what the hell you've done, you punk!
He won't die. If I get the Honko, Oyaji's dream comes true, doesn't it?
So, if you don't understand why I'm upset about this, it's because Saijima's been in the 4, he's been in the 5, he's been in the 6, he's been in the Like a Dragon or the 7th game, the pirate game, or he's going to be in the pirate game. So he's like a long-standing character in the Yakuza franchise, and for the show to kill him off like this, it's kind of, you know, unexpected and very unwanted, because, you know, it just shows that they're doing their own thing rather than actually following the game's story. And as I said, If you're not following the game story, you know, kind of, or at least trying to, then you're not a real game adaptation. And I've said it multiple times and I'll say it again. It's because this show does not have the time to delve into multiple characters' full-on stories. Saejima has his own story, Majima has his own story, Kira has his own story, Nishiki has his own story. Everyone has their own stories, and each game is like 30-50 hours long. So the show, which has 6 episodes, each of them being 40 minutes long, it can't do all that in the time that they had. Alright, so this is what happened to Majima once Dojima found out that they failed to get the Hanko and that Saejima died.
Sorry to hear that your friend Saejima died, Majima, but you shouldn't have been spreading Christmas cheer in public, as I have stated on numerous occasions. It disrupts our organization as a whole. However, in this time of grieving, I will help you recover from this loss with a Christmas gift.
Wow, thank you Dojima-san for this thoughtful Christmas gift.
I wish I had a Christmas gift, Dojima. I cannot express in words how grateful I am to receive this Christmas gift in my time of grieving for Saejima, my best friend.
So Yumi goes to go see her sister, but surprise, surprise, her informant actually lied this entire time. And her sister isn't here. But in another shocking plot twist, she was and just scammed her sister and didn't want to see her because she didn't want to see her, I guess. So we return back to the present and we see the Floweress of Sai has a pretty good setup and knows everything that goes on within the city of Kamurocho. I don't like the whole using cameras aspect. I thought it was pretty creative that in the 4 he used homeless people as his informants. And the episode ends with the florist saying, I'll give you your information only if Kiru fights in my Coliseum. And then Kiru agrees to it by signing this little waiver. So then the florist tells him, oh yeah, Aiko, she's hanging out with this guy who's apparently her ex, who's also in the Omi Alliance, so I guess maybe they'll become more prevalent in the series. So they cut to this guy who's left stranded in the road, and he comes across this restaurant, and he goes over and starts eating there. Apparently this is Indy, who was Aiko's scamming buddy back in episode 3. Or this is still episode 3, I don't care. And apparently Aiko scammed him from the 10 billion they stole, and then the Omi guys come in to kick his ass. And the episode ends there. Interesting developments. I guess the demon of Shinjuku is now targeting the guys he worked with on the heist. And Saejima's dead. On to the next episode. Episode 4 starts out with the flashback of the heist of the 10 billion yen. So hopefully this answers a couple of questions for the audience. Questions like, why was the Omi Alliance moving such a large sum of cash very unguarded? I mean, this is just like one truck moving this cash. There should be a convoy moving with this cash. Second of all, why were there cameras in this forest that were just like watching this trail? Because Nishiki had access to it and Dante had access to it, so whose cameras was it and why did everyone have access to it? You know, questions like that. So let's watch this episode. So this truck stops to this hiker collapsed on the ground, and now to anyone who's smart enough, this is obviously a trap, you know, but they still approach it and they get close and they tell him, we need to move this guy out of the way so we can move this truck money, and obviously he gets ambushed. And then the passenger gets out of the safety of the truck to check out what's going on, and he gets his ass beat by a guy with a crowbar. When I hear guys who robbed a criminal organization, I would think they would have a much better plan than this, because their plan relied on a lot of luck, because this plan could have gone sideways in 2 ways. The guy in the driver's seat could have just ran the hiker over and continued on their way. Or when the guy in the driver's seat got ambushed, the guy in the passenger seat could have just taken the vehicle and drove off without him, and that would be the end of it. But no, these guys have to be stupid and play right into their hands, which kind of sucks, because it just shows that the Yakuza is just incompetent in general, and that's really bad for a show that revolves around the Yakuza, or is supposed to be, because, you know, it's not revolving around the Yakuza, it's revolving around Kiru, Nishiki, Yumi, and Miho, and sometimes Aiko. And more than half of the main cast aren't really associated with the Yakuza. They just kind of have people who are into the Yakuza, so So Aiko and Indy are shown to be in contact with the demon of Shinjuku, who gave him this tip that this truck was driving with 10 billion yen inside of it. And after realizing, oh my god, there really is 10 billion yen inside that truck, they decided to betray the demon of Shinjuku and take the money for themselves. But not before killing all the Omi Alliance members by putting them inside the truck and driving the truck into the river. Now, I don't think Aiko has any redeeming qualities as a character, because she betrayed her sister by scamming her when she tried to meet her, and she killed a bunch of Omi Alliance members, which I guess, you know, they are members of the criminal organization, but like killing them via drowning is a little harsh, not gonna lie. We cut back to Kiru and Yumi, and they're trying to find Aiko's ex-boyfriend, and Haruka is left with a babysitter. But their search is stopped by members of the Omi Alliance who abduct Yumi and try to stop Kiru, but you know, you can't stop Kiru. And then this guy shows up and he tells Kiru, don't worry, we're gonna take you in peacefully now. So they take him in peacefully. To cut a long story short, the patriarch of the Omi Alliance just tells him, you have 1 day to get that 10 billion back, or I'm gonna kill you. You know, typical Yakuza stuff. Cut back to the past, and it's shown that Miho's kidney is actually failing more than they thought. Doctor tells them Nishiki's and Miho's kidneys are not compatible, so they're going to be put on a wait list, which could take years. And Miho does not have years in her, unfortunately. Dojima gets his papers finalized for the Millennium Tower, and Kiru walks in and says, I need more fights so I can get that cash for Miho's hospital bills. And it gets explained that the only way to become the Dragon of Dojima is to be the clan's winning Coliseum fighter. And that's the only way to become the Dragon of Dojima. So Kiru wins fight after fight while the gang does everything they can to, you know, make money. Then Dojima goes to Nishiki and says, I heard that your little sister is having problems with her kidney. I know a top guy, top black market organ dealer. He's gonna get you right. Only if you have lots of money. Lots of money. I'm talking obscene amounts of money. So Nishiki agrees, and Aiko comes back into Yumi's life for reasons like money. So yeah, that's a new development. Also, Aiko asks that Yumi get her a job at the club, and she does. Oh, and I forgot to mention that for Nishiki to get the obscene amount of money for the organ, the kidney, he has to sabotage Kiru's next fight, which is also his final fight to become the Dragon of Dojima. So he's having real problems doing that. Because if you don't remember, Kiru's whole dream is to become the Dragon of Dojima. Because, you know, he kicked ass. All he was ever wanted to be was to become a dragon. I always felt that the show misinterpreted why Kiru's the Dragon of Dojima. He's the Dragon of Dojima because he's Kiru. He's not Kiru because he's the Dragon of Dojima. It doesn't define the character. And this obsession with becoming the Dragon of Dojima is very unlike Kiru. Because, like I said before, he wasn't striving to become the Dragon of Dojima in the games. He only became the Dragon of Dojima through his actions. And Kiru cared more about being a Yakuza and whatnot. Which is why the game is called Yakuza, not the Dragon of Dojima or Like a Dragon. Oh, wait a minute. What I'm trying to say is that Kiru isn't defined by the title of the Dragon of Dojima. He has way more defining characteristics than just being called the Dragon of Dojima. Kiru has very defining characteristics, like he has a very strict code of honor, he has a very strong sense of justice, he does not judge others or learns not to judge others without knowing what they do, he's wise, he considers himself a Yakuza at heart, but he's disgusted by Nishiki and young Daigo's use of violence. You know, characteristics like that, and not just going, oh my god, it's the Dragon of Dojima, and that's it. End. Scene. That's it. That's all he's known for. So we cut back to the present where this guy publicly pissing finds the corpse of, I can only assume, Indy. You know, that guy who got killed by the Demon of Shinjuku a couple while back. This causes the Tojo clan to be really upset because the Demon of Shinjuku is out there killing again. And if you paid attention, back in episode 1, the Demon of Shinjuku killed the clan's number 2. And then the top guy walks in, he's like, let's go get this demon. So then Dante calls Kiryu to let him know that the demon of Shinjuku is back at it again. And then they go back to the Yakuza and the guy just tells him, Nishiki, you gotta get the money. You gotta get the money. Otherwise this war with the Omi is gonna go in. And we're gonna lose a lot of men. We're gonna lose a lot of men. So Dante and Kiryu talk about why the demon of Shinjuku would leave the body in such an obvious location. Obviously the demon is upset about not getting the 10 billion. But why would he put it in such an obvious location? Then it hits him. He wants to get the Millennium Tower. Obviously. Makes sense. But I guess we're gonna have to continue watching to see what he does at the Millennium Tower. We cut back to Haruka, who has this little note, or I guess postcard, which has Aiko's location on it. And obviously Haruka being Aiko's child, she, sneaks out to go find Aiko. Obviously, Yumi is notified immediately that Haruka is missing from her location, her spot, her home, whatever. And they're like, fuck, now we got more problems to deal with. But they also find out where Aiko went, which is this place called Megami Lake, where their mother, committed suicide by walking into the river. Kiryu is about to call Nishiki for help. However, Yumi goes up to him and tells him, you don't understand, he's changed, he's become evil, Nishiki. Again, it's the problem the show don't tell. They don't show any indication that Nishiki became evil after the time skip. Yumi just has to tell the audience, Nishiki is now evil. He's changed for the worse. If you call him up, he's gonna do something evil. He has this moment where he's annoyed that Kiryu doesn't respond to his call, and he goes like, make it look so easy being the patriarch. Like no one's ever told him it's the hardest thing to do. What would Dojima do? And then I was like, hold on, does this guy respect Dojima? And then I watched the rest of the episodes. I was like, there ain't no fucking way. Why would he respect Dojima? And then Yumi goes, Nishiki's changed. He's become someone else. He's become evil Nishiki. He's never been the same ever since that day. That dreadful day. Why'd you even come back? You bitch. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's basically how it went down. So the Demon of Shinjuku raids the base of the Florist of Sai. One of the most powerful figures in Kamurocho gets ambushed by the Demon of Shinjuku. Okay, now stay with me here. They have no form of security against this. And they had no idea. The people who are supposed to know everything Kamurocho didn't know the Demon of Shinjuku was after them. They have to make the Yakuza and the Florist of Sai completely incompetent for this Demon of Shinjuku guy to work. I mean, the Yakuza is still the Yakuza and the Florist of Sai is still the Florist of Sai. They have to decrease their abilities for him to be cool in the show. But it just makes everyone else look incompetent and stupid. So the Demon of Shinjuku wants to know Haruka's location and whereabouts because she's probably heading to Aiko in some form. And they tell him that, hey, Haruka's headed towards the station to get around. And after killing one of his employees, the Florist of Sai is forced to give up her location. After the Florist of Sai gives up Haruka's location, they're about to kill him with a gun because I guess the Demon Shinjuku is no loose ends type of guy until one of the guys in the background goes, oh, she's at this location, and the guy just guns him down because, he's wearing a wire, it's a really clever, I think it was a really clever idea that the Demon of Shinjuku knew that the guy had a wire because of his statement that he made. So, the police on the other end knew that, where Haruka was so that he gets the information out to them. But you know what's not clever? The police had an inside guy this entire time. They could have sent a SWAT team to where he was and caught the Demon of Shinjuku, but they didn't. They let this guy run rampant and have an inside guy. Boggles the fucking mind. I mean, they could have stopped this guy wherever he was. They had an inside guy this entire time. Most of these story beats don't work if the Yakuza and the police was actually competent. If the police was competent, the Demon of Shinjuku would have been stopped a long time ago. I mean, they even have an inside guy. They could have caught this guy a long time ago. And the Yakuza, they let 10 billion yen get stolen from them by a girl with a taser and a guy with a stick. In the Yakuza games, the Yakuza are actually a threat because they ice anyone in their way. The only rival to them is Yakuza. Even Tachibana knew that his power wouldn't get very far against the Yakuza without the empty lot. So their inside guy are killed, and Dante's like, oh, fuck, man. Ah, fuck. Everybody get out. We can't do anything else, man. The Yakuza, the Demon Shinjuku, We can't do anything against them, man. And they presumably kill the Floor Society off screen. As if Michael Bay was writing this series. I think the biggest changes done to the series is that the Yakuza are barely do anything in the series. They're just like this large organization that can't catch the Demon Shinjuku and required outside help to get the Honko. Even their own men fumble with the Honko. And something that I forgot to mention, weren't like Kiryu and Nishiki like wanted for killing the guy who owed the Honko and the deed? Whatever happened to that? Did they just forget about that? I guess they forgot about that to like, you know, keep the story going. They couldn't like spend more than like an episode on that. Otherwise it would have been like more than 6 episodes for the season. They can't have that. Amazon executives can't have that. I said it like multiple times and I'll say it again. The Yakuza show misunderstands Kiryu. He's not defined by being the Dragon of Dojima. He defines what it means to be the Dragon of Dojima. You know? Like that JJK meme. Episode 5 starts out with a meeting, you know? No weapon meeting with the Chinese and this guy, the Tojo Clan's number 2, if you remember, the Demon of Shinjuku killed him. It's talking about getting rid of Nishiki. You know, Nishiki's a big problem for him. The Chinese leave the building, the lights turn off, and surprise, surprise, the Demon of Shinjuku shows up. Of course, he gets through their defenses easily, whoops the ass of everyone in the establishment, and gets some quiet time with this guy before he carves him up. Haruka arrives at the station and Shimano is playing pool. And it turns out that Shimano is working with Kazuma and he says that Kiryu and Yumi would absolutely get the 10 billion yen. And all Shimano needs to do is handle the Tojo clan while he talks with the Omi. The bus to where Haruka needs to go isn't coming for a while until she gets approached by a mysterious man. Ooh. Kazuma talks with the Omi Alliance's leader, this guy, and basically comes to the agreement that if they give him the 10 billion yen and dissolve Nishiki's group, the Dojima family, they'll come to peace. It's nice to see that Kazuma is becoming more proactive character in the series. Oh, the only unfortunate part is that it happens the second last episode of the season, which sucks. When the top guy at the Tojo clan hears about this, he's like, "You did what? You got an ex-Yakuza involved to negotiate for us? Do you even know what it means to dissolve a family?" And Shimano responds,
"But sir, we are on the brink of a war."
Shimano-san, there's no way it comes.
No one asked you! Listen, sir, I know that you've considered Nishiki could be working with the demon. He must be cut off, or we'll be dragged down with him!
I was honestly quite shocked to hear this, because this is Shimano in the show saying this. Based off the video game character Shimano from the Yakuza game, who is first and foremost a villain in the 0 and the 1, or at least a main antagonist for Majima and Kiryu. And now he's acting nobly for the Tojo clan and dropping his pride to work with Kazuma. Remember, this guy is based off Shimano from the games, who was willing to sell off the Tojo clan to the Omi Alliance in the 0 and was ready to kill anyone in his way of the 10 billion yen stolen from the Tojo clan. And what happens next is even more shocking from this character. The top guy of the Tojo clan is like, "Somebody pass me my blade. I'm ready to get serious." And he tells Shimano to show him his stomach, to which Shimano responds,
If you think it would save us, then cut me open now! Yaji-san, restrain yourself! Please, move! I said move!
But then he goes, "Psych, we're actually gonna go hunt the demon, and I'm gonna cut off Nishiki, but I'm gonna be very sad about it." I really enjoyed these scenes. I think they really had a lot of passion and had a lot of good writing in it. It had a lot of tension in them. It had good context, good build-up. Unfortunately, the content it's based on doesn't make sense to be adapted into this way. Why would they make Shimano, who is a bad fella, into a good, loyal guy? Because this guy is a bad fella in the games. He would sell the Tojo clan like in a snap to the Omi Alliance if it meant getting them more power. I mean, this guy is not supposed to be a good guy, yet he's cool. I'm rooting for him. And I think it's an absolutely acceptable change in the series. Every other change has been dog shit. This one Good. Mwah. Good writing. So Kazuma talks with the head honcho of the Omi Alliance, basically seals the deal with him, but the head honcho still tells him, hey, that deal with me and Kiryu, it's still ongoing. If they don't come back to me with the money, boom, dead. That's execution. No, I like seeing these scenes where the Yakuza are actually discussing their next move, you know, scheming, you know, showing their loyalty and the cause and what they believe in, you know, fighting for the Tojo clan, like the Shimano scenes. Because, you know, it's about the Yakuza. It's about the Yakuza, and I like them putting focus on the Yakuza. And these scenes really shine. There's a lot of tension and build up to these scenes. But, you know, the problem with the show, which I'll mention again and again, it doesn't focus on the Yakuza. They're golden parts, you know? The sections on the Yakuza aren't bad, they're really good. But they, for some reason, still decide to focus on Yumi, Miho, Aiko. They're boring. I don't like their stories. They don't make any sense. They're rotten. And I especially hate that rotten Aiko. And Nishiki and Kiryu, they're like barely Yakuza. They like fail all their missions in the Yakuza, and the only good thing about Kiryu is that he fights in the underground coliseum in the name of the Yakuza, and that's pretty much it. In the Zero, he actually did errands for the Yakuza. You know, he was in charge of debt collection in the 0 and the 1. You know, he's really good at it because he beats people up good. And in the Yakuza show, he's relegated to just the fighter. That's it, nothing else. He doesn't fight for anything. He just fights in these underground matches. Then again, if he actually did those jobs for the Yakuza right, maybe he would get more. But no. He and Nishiki failed to get the Honko twice. Fumbled the bag. So we get another flashback of the Yumi and Aiko's parents killing themselves, or just the mother. And, you know, obviously this means Aiko is about to kill herself, and at this point, fucking let her. Aiko was responsible for the theft of the 10 billion yen from the Omi Alliance, thus spurring the conflict between the Omi Alliance and the Tojo clan, because she was related to Yumi, who is related to Nishiki, who, well, not related, like, through blood, but just, like, I guess, friends with Nishiki and supported Nishiki in the Tojo clan. So, therefore, it drove conflict with the Omi Alliance and the Tojo clan, and basically started this whole war. She betrayed her accomplice, Indy, and left him out to die, and basically put Haruka in harm's way by robbing the money and putting a target on her back, as well as Yumi, putting Yumi in harm's way. So, all in all, she's a bitch. Yumi comes in to save Aiko and basically tells her, you don't get to kill yourself. No, stop it. It's boring. I don't give a shit.
Do you realize the trouble you've caused? What? I'm not causing anything. Just promise me something. Don't hurt Haruka ever again.
If this was Kiryu from the games, he would have ripped Aiko's head off, dude. Torn her into. Give him one of those fucking combos from the games, bro. You wouldn't put up with none of this shit, dude. Because I swear to God, dude, if I was Kiryu, you better believe I would have bashed Aiko's head skull in, dude. After giving me one of those fucking faces, dude. Alright, what was I? Oh, yeah. So, Nishiki calls him. And one thing you gotta remember, this isn't your average Nishiki. As Yumi explained before. This is evil Nishiki. So Nishiki goes, yeah, I have Haruka. You better bring the money to me at Millennium Tower. And Aiko finally decides to act like a parent, but Nishiki doesn't give a fuck. And Kiryu goes, did the demon get to you, Nishiki? And Nishiki goes, you're the one who betrayed us that day. That dreadful day, bitch. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's basically how it went down. Flashback time to shit not even related to the Yakuza. Yay, yippee! So Nishiki's getting his papers finalized to his sister's kidney transplant. But he still has to drug Kiryu to get the rest of the money. I mean, realistically, this plot point to me doesn't make any sense, because Nishiki could just talk to Kiryu and ask him to throw the match. He doesn't have to drug him or anything. And I'm pretty sure Kiryu in the show, although being the Dragon of Dojima is his biggest dream, he would give it up to save Miho's life for the kidney transplant. And all this feels like a forced conflict with the main characters ignoring the most logical solution for this story to work. Hey, Kiryu is actually finally training for his fights. Too bad it's the second last episode in the series. Oh well. So back at the club that Yumi works at, Dojima is talking to the owner of the club and basically is asking for more money from her. And basically she says, that's absurd. And also the rat bastard is here, aka the future florist of Sai. Or the current force. I'm sorry, who cares? So basically, this sets up a later plot point. Kind of doesn't matter. And we return to Miho at the hospital, where Miho is checking out Kiru's tattoo. So basically in the show, Kiru can only gain more additions to the tattoo the more fights he wins. And this last fight with this guy called the Emperor, he's gonna gain the dragon's eyes and finally become the Dragon of Dojima. However, this is the fight that Nishiki has to sabotage. So that basically means he stomps out Kiru's dream of being the Dragon of Dojima. So the fight is finally about to happen. We're finally about to get the answer to how did Kiru betray Nishiki and the gang? How will Nishiki sabotage Kiru? I mean, he had days to plan for this. He surely has a solid, concrete plan. And how will Dojima gain from this? Will he even gain from it? And maybe this will answer my question. What does this have to do with the Yakuza? Fight starts. They seem pretty equal at first until Kiru starts kicking the guy's ass. Got him pinned in the ground and beating his face in, dude. It's not looking good. Nishiki takes notice and goes to prepare the concoction to drug Kiru. However, while preparing it, Nishiki gets caught by the dastardly Yumi because he does it right behind the pillar that we're standing at. Now, some of you may be asking, why didn't Nishiki prepare the concoction before the fight even started and had it ready to not deal with this kind of problem? And to that I answer, oh. So when Kiru goes to his corner to take a break and Nishiki tries to give him this dastardly concoction, Yumi stops him in his tracks. And there and then, Nishiki decides to tell Kiru that he needs to throw this match to save Miho for the operation money and costs. At which, Kiru starts to throw the match, and you might be wondering, well, when does Kiru betray him? Well, he betrays him when he's getting beaten down in the corner and about to lose consciousness, when he suddenly remembers when Miho asked him to teach her how to throw an uppercut.
With the winnings, your operation is taken care of.
It's not just Kazuma's dream. Mine and yours as well, right?
We're free!
Kazuchi is our sister.
I want to learn an uppercut.
Technical knockout! Winner! Kiryu! With a retaliation uppercut! Kazuma Kiryu is the champion!
Watching this clip just hurts my soul to its very core because the writers had broadened themselves into a corner. Now that they had the logical solution of just telling Kiru just to throw the match, they were like, fuck, how are we going to continue this plot point to make evil Nishiki? And they got it. They're just going to make Kiru throw an uppercut out of nowhere to beat the guy up and to win the match. For no reason. Absolutely none. Just to make Nishiki miserable and evil. I just think the randomness of the punch just really hurts the fucking narrative, bro. Because there's no reason to throw that uppercut. So Nishiki, rightfully so, gets his ass whooped by Dojima goons because he failed the mission and cost Dojima a lot of money. And Dojima is pissed because he lost a lot of money on that bet because he bet all lot of money on the Emperor. Just a lot, obscene amounts of money on the Emperor. Miho's in really bad condition, on the verge of dying. You know, she's about to fucking die. It's bad. It's just really bad. Kiru comes crawling back, and Nishiki's rightfully pissed because why in the world would he throw that uppercut? They visit Miho at the hospital, and this scene just breaks my heart because this is all happening after Kiru fumbled settling a fight. He fumbled losing a fight. How do you fumble?
was great. His uppercut saved the day. Really? Congrats.
I won.
So Nishiki starts talking to the doctor, you know, he's saying that, oh, I can pay you, I have the money, you know, you just gotta give me time, and the doctor is going, no, I'm being transferred, and your sister is in no condition to be operated, and that under zero pressure, alright, he gave Nishiki this information, that his sisters and his kidneys were compatible from the start. Under zero pressure, right? Under zero pressure, he revealed that.
Cosmo?
Huh?
You and Nishiki. You'll be friends forever, won't you?
I mean, realistically, what was I expecting? So Nishiki tracks down the supposed organ dealer, and the organ dealer basically reveals that the doctor was working with Dojima from the very start. There was no organ donor, and he's been lied to from the very start. What else? What else? Oh, he's not actually an organ dealer. He's just a regular dude. So imagine you told the guy that you were conspiring against, that you conspired with other people to basically lie to him, get him to betray his best friend, and basically be responsible for his sister's death. Alright? Now, would you, A, get out of there because the guy's probably gonna crash out and kill you, or B, start doing what you were originally doing and putting mangoes in a box? Now, for those of you who chose B, you were absolutely correct.
Yeah, the Dojima Oyabun set you up. There was never gonna be a donor. She wouldn't have died if she had gone to a real hospital.
Well, Nishiki's finally evil. Great. In another interesting development, Yumi arrives to her workplace only to find out that it's being raided by the police due to the fact that they had underage workers working there, which was retaliation from the Dojima clan. Family. At this point, it doesn't even matter. And the Florist of Sai is also here. In a surprising twist, it's revealed that Aiko actually recruited those girls and provided them with fake IDs. And when the Florist of Sai came looking for dirt on, I guess, the owner of the establishment, Aiko provided that dirt, basically revealing that they had underage workers there, meaning that she was responsible for getting the owner arrested. Also, she tells Yumi that she's pregnant, which is an odd time to reveal that. Despite this fact, Yumi attacks her sister, and they part ways. Yumi comes home to find Nishiki soaking in the chair because his sister died, obviously. And Nishiki tells Yumi that Dojima set them up and that Miho didn't have to die. And Nishiki's losing his cool right now because his sister died for nothing. And I mean literally for nothing. Dojima's scheme was to use Miho's condition to manipulate Nishiki into sabotaging Kiru's fight against the Emperor so Dojima could bet against Kiru and win big for the Millennium Tower project. But Kiru still won and Dojima's scheme failed, but Miho still died, meaning that her death benefited absolutely nobody and she died for nothing. Nishiki, in his weakened mental state, attempts to express his love for Yumi. You know, he loves Yumi, but Yumi doesn't love him, and he basically asks Yumi, oh, you love Kiru, don't you? And she says yes. There was no indication of this in the prior flashbacks that Nishiki had a thing for Yumi, and this is, need I remind you, the second last episode of the entire season. So Yumi goes over to Kiru to tell Kiru that she loves him and whatever, but she also tells him that Dojima set him up and that Nishiki's pissed. So Nishiki decides to pay a visit to Dojima and Kiru has to get in there to stop Nishiki from making a terrible mistake. And the episode ends cutting back to the present with Nishiki awaiting Kiru and Yumi's arrival at the Millennium Tower, and he looks malicious. Dare I say, he looks evil. I think it's important to note that up until this point, we haven't seen Nishiki do anything extremely evil. I mean, the worst he's done is kidnap Haruka, and that's pretty much about it. We just get told that by Yumi that Nishiki's changed after the incident, but we actually don't get told what evil things he's done. Even Shimano claims that even the head honcho of the Tojo clan must think that Nishiki might be working with the demon.
Listen, sir, I know that you've considered Nishiki could be working with the demon. He must be cut off, or we'll be dragged down with him!
But there's no real indication that Nishiki would be working with a demon. We aren't shown any indication of that. We just have to be told that. And I don't have a problem with Nishiki being evil. I just have a problem with we're not getting shown him being evil. We're not getting any build up to it. It's just that, oh, Nishiki has been evil ever since that incident. Nishiki might be working with a demon, even though there's no indication of it. You know, it just spoils the build up to a villain. It makes it feel that this villain came out of nowhere. Anyways, let's get on with the final episode. Nishiki comes in offering celebratory alcohol to celebrate start of the Millennium Tower project, and this causes Dojima to ask his subordinate who is in the room to go get him glasses and something to eat. Nishiki, taking advantage of this opportunity with him and Dojima being alone, pulls out a gun and starts threatening Dojima, and Dojima kind of goats him into shooting him. And surprise, surprise, the guy with a gun doesn't take it very lightly when the guy who indirectly caused his sister's death taunts him. Everyone at HQ starts running over because of the gunshot, and Kiru somehow manages to get in there first. He locks the door behind them, but Nishiki continues to threaten him with a gun because, you know, Kiru was also accountable for his sister's death. Kiru disarms him and basically goes like, I'm gonna take accountability for this. There's no real concrete reason for this. He just says that Nishiki has to live, and that's it. Like I said before, this show deviates too much from the actual source material to be called an adaptation of the source material, but on its own, it's still kind of bad. Kiru had no reason to take accountability for Nishiki's mistakes here. Narratively speaking, in the Yakuza 1, he had more reason to take accountability for Nishiki's, I guess, crime of killing Dojima because his sister, who was still currently alive when he killed Dojima, was undergoing an operation that she needed, I guess, a lot of support for. So Nishiki had to be around for that operation. That's why Kiru had to take the fall. Now, there's no actual reason for Kiru to take the fall other than Nishiki has to live for some reason. So the cops come and catch wind of this, and they go ahead and arrest Kiru for the murder of, you know, Dojima. I'm surprised Kiru didn't automatically get executed where he was, you know, since he murdered their boss and all, but I'm gonna let it slide. So Shimano comes a knocking because he's come to disband the Dojima organization or family due to the agreement with the Omi Alliance. But Nishiki actually isn't in the building right now, so he has to take a seat down and wait for him so that he can tell him that, hey, I'm disbanding your family. Yumi, Kiru, and Aiko drive over to the Millennium Tower to make a trade with the 10 billion yen for Haruka. They get there, but the building's surrounded by Tojo clan members. So Kiru goes out to go talk with them while Aiko and Yumi go off to the parking lot below the Millennium Tower to make the trade. Kiru goes out and talks to this guy who tells him that Shimano went up there to talk with Nishiki about disbanding the family, so Kiru has to go up there and see what's up. Meanwhile, back at the Millennium Tower, Nishiki shows up again to Shimano. Shimano basically tells him that it's over, Nishiki. Your family disbanded. The top head honcho at the Tojo clan comes over to make sure that the negotiations went smoothly and Nishiki took the news well. But then, the leader of the Omi comes in to make sure that the Dojima family was disbanded. Back at the top of the Millennium Tower, it does not seem that Nishiki took the news well, as the lights turn off and they get ambushed. Ooh. They get into a firefight, but since they were taken by surprise, they do not last long. Shimano, being one of the last survivors, gets sliced and diced by the demon of Shinjuku and promptly shot off the building.
Boy! It's Shimano! Our brother is dead!
Tensions are already at their boiling point, so the top guy at the Omi Alliance sends out his guy to see what's going on, make sure that they aren't being duped. And Kiryu is heading towards the top floor of the Millennium Tower. Also, the floor's Asai is not really dead. He's helping out the Demon of Shinjuku now. Yumi and Aiko get to the parking garage to make the trade with the 10 billion yen for Haruka. And they get there and they find the Demon of Shinjuku's goons with Haruka. Kira arrives at the top floor, sees the mayhem that's been caused, and I guess the Omi Alliance are not preparing to start fighting with the Tojo clan for, I don't know, I guess they didn't keep up their end of the bargain. I think the Omi Alliance going to war with the Tojo clan right now as Shimano dies doesn't make any sense, because obviously why would they kill one of their own guys making the dealings with the Dojima family? Also, I think this was just done to like make sure the Tojo clan doesn't just storm the Millennium Tower and just like rip Nishiki's head off for like killing Shimano. So at last, Kiro arrives and starts fighting with the Demon of Shinjuku. But after fighting for a bit, he gets sliced up a bit. However, Kiryu starts turning the fight around, beating the Demon of Shinjuku's ass. So a lot of Omi Alliance members turn out to go to war with the Tojo clan, and the Tojo clan are looking a little outnumbered in their own region.
More guys, right away.
Yes, sir. Go get reinforcements. Anybody. Call all the families. Go.
Right away, sir. Hold on, you two. Get on it. The regular thugs are no help now. You know who to get. That crazy bastard lives for this shit.
But, sir, he was stripped of his rank.
This is a dire situation.
Yes, sir. Call Benjamin and his crew.
Right away, sir.
Oh, shit. What is this, a Yakuza sports day or something?
Sir, this is way more than we thought.
But Yakuza fight Yakuza. I've been waiting a long time for this. Today will be the day. Our city's Yakuza will meet their end.
I'm actually quite shocked that Majima didn't actually play a larger role in the story. I mean, he only showed up in episode 3 to like fail to get the Honko, so you didn't really do anything. And he only shows up in the last episode to aid the Tojo clan in an all-out war. So narratively, he doesn't do much in the show. Also, Saijima's death doesn't even do anything for the show either. They just killed him off for no reason. It would be important if like he died to contribute to some growth in Majima or do something in Majima to make him a plot point later on, but he just dies and no one gives a shit. Dojima doesn't give a shit, Majima doesn't give a shit, it doesn't impact the story in any way, shape, or form. I think this scene where Dante is saying that I've been waiting for the Yakuza to go at it with each other is just pure bullshit to make the insinuating fight scene seem more cool and epic of the two Yakuza factions going to war, because it seems very out of character for him to say that, as he's been working this entire season seeking out Kiryu's help to prevent this war, because, as he put it, innocents will get killed in the crossfire.
So I'm asking you, commit to the Gokudo again. You could prevent a war from breaking out.
You gotta be kidding me. Come on, you believe this guy? So, how about we work together to find Aiko? Why should I do that? You're familiar with her. We could be looking at an all-out Yakuza war, you know. Not my problem. This is gonna be a real pain in the ass. I'm begging you.
Quite suspicious, he turns from wanting to do everything in his power to stop this war to, I've been waiting for this my entire life. Like, what? That just sounds out of character even in the Yakuza show standards. This is the standard set by the show. He wants to stop this war, and now he's turning complete 180 and wants to watch this war happen. So Kiryu's left all bloodied from fighting with the Demon of Shinjuku. He has all these wounds all over him, and the Demon of Shinjuku reveals himself to be evil Nishiki. So you must be asking yourself, why would Nishiki do all of this? Go to the trouble of becoming the Demon of Shinjuku, adopting a fake persona to be able to kill Tojo executives and steal the 10 billion yen from the Omi Alliance, thus sparking a conflict between the Omi Alliance and the Tojo clan. And for what reason? What does he have to gain from all of this?
Don't get in the way, Kazuma.
Why?
I'm going to destroy it all. The building, the block, Yakuza families. Every last bit!
Are you really Nishiki?
Who's to say? Is he still here, or is the demon all that's left? I've waited 10 years for this. Time to die, Kazuma.
Money's all here.
That's good.
You know, a big realization for me comes in the form of realizing that Nishiki is no longer the fish. If you're unaware of what I mean by this, I mean that he no longer carries the tattoo of the fish on his back. Now, this is very important for several reasons. I'm not joking. Now, originally throughout the story, Nishiki doesn't like Kiryu because he always feels that he's inferior to Kiryu. He feels that Kazuma favors him over Kiryu. He feels that the Yakuza favors Kiryu over him. And he feels inferior to Kiryu. He has this inferiority complex. And his sister dying in the hospital throws him over the edge. He becomes evil Nishiki. But I'm not going to play the edit here. Now you might be asking yourself, what does this have to do with the fish on his back? Now, the fish, to be more specific, is a koi. Now, in Chinese and Japanese mythology, the koi must swim upstream the Yellow River through the Dragon's Gate of the Longmen to turn into a dragon. Now, this koi basically represents the Nishiki's capacity to become a dragon, or basically a top guy in the Tojo clan. But he feels that he needs to beat Kiryu to finally become a dragon. He needs to surpass Kiryu to realize his destiny, his full potential. And that's basically how it relates to the koi on his back. Now, by removing the koi on his back, they basically removed that entire plot point about Nishiki having an inferiority complex about Kiryu, basically meaning that the only reason that Nishiki hates Kiryu now is that this reason that the show made, which was that Kiryu was responsible, or partly responsible, of Miho's death. Now, to turn Nishiki from in the show from cool to drool, Nishiki's original character had an entirely cool backstory with an actual concrete reason for hating Kiryu, and now in the show they make him, "Boo-hoo, my sister's dead," and give him fucking school vibes. Nishiki from the games was given a way more deep reason to hate Kiryu rather than, oh, he caused my sister to die, and had a cool ass tattoo on his back which basically symbolized of what he thought he had to do to become fulfilled or completed his destiny, which was to beat Kiryu. The source material was 10 times better of what the show tried to do. The show tried to stand at its own 2 feet, but it couldn't because 6 episodes, 40 minutes each, is not enough to make a complex story like Yakuza. So Kiryu is laying there with his ass beaten by Nishiki, and Nishiki says,
In order to destroy this town, we need the power of the demon.
In other news, the Tojo clan and the Omi Alliance are going head to head right now, and Cosmo tries to stop it with no avail. The head honcho of the Tojo clan is letting off shots, and the henchmen are slicing each other, and they're just shooting each other. It's all just total chaos right now. Date sees all this, and he doesn't give a fuck. Nishiki starts walking away while Kiryu tries to follow, but his wounds prevent him from catching up. Didn't actually notice this on first viewing, but there's a little guy over here that survived all this bloodshed, bro. Back to Yumi and Aiko. They're being held up by the Demon of Shinjuku's henchmen, or Nishiki now. They're taking the 10 billion yen and holding them at gunpoint. However, the henchman gets distracted and starts taking off his jacket. What the fuck? And then Yumi takes advantage of this, shoves him down, and grabs his gun and starts letting off shots. The other guy, I guess, was taken off guard enough for her to shoot him as well. However, he isn't wounded enough to not let off a couple of shots, and Aiko comes in with the dive to save Yumi. Wow. I get that it's heroic and all, but Aiko's been such a massive piece of shit during the series that I literally did not give a fuck when she died and got gunned down, bro. Like, I guess they could have built it up to her, like, slowly reforming and then getting shot down, but they didn't, so no, I guess I didn't really care at all over her death. Because, to be fair, she put Yumi's life at risk, she put Haruka's life at risk, so it's the least she can do, you know, sacrifice herself to save them. Yeah. She somehow stands up from all those gunshots to check on the money, but she quickly falls over. But then I guess the blood loss starts getting to her, and she starts not being able to stand up straight. She's obviously dying from these gunshot wounds, but she still got her eyes on the money, bro. Anyways, this would be a sad moment if this entire series wasn't caused by Aiko stealing the 10 billion yen. Like, she caused the war between the Yakuza. So with the reveal that Nishiki is now the demon of Shinjuku, it basically means that Nishiki hired specifically Aiko, Yumi's sister, to steal the 10 billion yen. But why did he choose Aiko specifically? Maybe it was to like link the Tojo clan and the Omi alliance together, but he could have done that. He could have chosen another person to do that without linking Yumi to the crime, so that her life wouldn't be in danger, because the only reason she was hit off the parking lot in like the first episode was because Aiko was her sister, and Aiko was the one who stole the 10 billion yen. So they wanted to get Aiko, so they chased down Yumi because they associated Yumi with Aiko. I thought Nishiki still loved Yumi, but I guess this isn't Nishiki anymore. I'm not doing like an evil Nishiki bit. I'm just saying that this is like a Nishiki who's like lashing out the world because he got Miho taken away from him. So Kiryu gets in an elevator to catch up to Nishiki because of his wounds. And Yumi prepares to take the money to the Yakuza so they can stop this entire war. Majima finally arrives to turn the tides in the Tojo clan's favor, and I gotta admit, I like this scene because it's Majima, you know? Most natural depiction, him fighting and enjoying the fight. Most, like, accurate depiction so far in the series. It's really disappointing to see that Majima didn't play a bigger role in the story, especially that Majima is such a prominent character in the 1 to 0, but I guess with the time constraints, they couldn't fit Majima in there. Maybe they could have taken away Aiko and Yumi time and replaced it with Majima time, because Aiko isn't even an original character in the games. So Kazuma's out there in the field fighting against the Omi Alliance, because I forgot he was even in this field. I thought he would be protected. And he's actually whooping ass, you know, for an old man who's washed and ex-Yakuza. But then this guy shows up and slashes his back. Kazuma manages to fend him off until he gets saved by Majima. And Majima and him start going at it. Yumi's driving out of the Millennium Tower until this guy shows up, ready to ice them. But Kiryu comes in with the save. But this guy is actually Nishiki. And him and Nishiki get ready for round 2. And obviously, Kiryu might not come out of this one on top. I mean, look at his wounds and look at Nishiki. He's practically undamaged during this whole ordeal. And he gets his ass whooped.
I'm
gonna destroy it all. This awful place, the men that call themselves Yakuza, Yumi, all of it! I'm sick of your self-righteousness. It wouldn't have gone this way if you'd let me die 10 years ago. This is all your fault.
Chance you She hated that she was dying. She wanted to live. Those were her dying words!
What am I supposed to do now, Kazuma?
Nishiki.
Kazuma, you've always been strong.
But Nishiki doesn't actually die there. But before he dies, he tells Kiryu something very important.
My parents were murdered by the Dragon of Toshima. The dragon. The dragon is by our side.
Nishiki.
Yumi finally arrives with the money, ready to end this conflict once and for all. She arrives and basically goes, "Here's your money, guys. Take your stupid money." And it's as simple as that. They just start packing up. Like, legitimately, they just start packing up. They're like, "Everybody, wrap it up, guys." They brought the money. And they all start leaving in mass. Also, Aiko's dead, I think. Yeah, she probably died in the car. So they start dealing with the aftermath of the situation. They start getting ambulances out to help the wounded. You know, get Aiko on the stretcher. And the police start doing their job. They start rounding people up. Kiryu actually managed to carry Nishiki out of the Millennium Tower. And it's only till now I realize he's wearing high heel boots. And Dante says something cliche like, "He actually did it. The Dragon of Dojima won." Or something. I don't even remember. Dante is such a like non-character in this story. He only exists to give Kiryu the exposition of what happened outside of prison, and that's it. He didn't stop the war between the Yakuza, which what he was aiming for, but then afterwards he switched up and was like, "I want to see the Yakuza fall," which doesn't make any sense. It just changed his character on the fly to make the whole situation look cool. None of the Yakuza really fell. They just lost some of their men. The status quo hasn't really changed. He didn't accomplish any of his goals and didn't really do nothing to change the story. He just was kind of there and just gave exposition to Kiryu, and that was it. That was his entire character. He just waited for the situation to get resolved by itself. Majima sees Kiryu and he goes, "We should do this again sometime. We should fight." That's it. Nishiki finally gets to the ambulance. He gets put on. Kiryu starts to succumb to his wounds after the ambulance leaves. Yumi helps him out to like walk around and stuff. And the first time of the series, Kazuma finally sees Kiryu after 10 years. And he's like, "Let's go home." And he starts stumbling, acting like if he got stabbed or something. And Kazuma starts helping him out. Until Kiryu notices that Kazuma is also injured, you know, kind of hard to miss when your back's covered in blood. But then all of a sudden, upon closer inspection, he sees the Dragon of Dojima on his back.
My parents were murdered by the Dragon of Dojima. The dragon is by our side.
And that's how the series ends, with Kiryu finding out that Kazuma basically killed their parents and was the Dragon of Dojima all along. The Dragon of Dojima he aspired to be. And that's basically the end of the season. I don't know if we'll get a second season because I don't think it attracted many fans. It didn't get a lot of attention. And I don't think the Yakuza show garnered much support from the fans because the Yakuza show is not like the Yakuza games, because the Yakuza show focuses a lot less on the actual Yakuza. For example, it focused on the Miho plot. Basically, Miho was sick and Kiryu and Nishiki were doing different things to basically try to get money for operation. And it was really a lot less about the Yakuza, because the Yakuza aren't doing Yakuza things. They're basically getting land and deeds, which I don't know much about the Yakuza, and I don't know if they do all that. But they also focused on Aiko and Yumi, basically Yumi chasing her long-lost sister, and her long-lost sister being the prick for like most of the series. And due to the shortness of the season, they couldn't put like fan-favorite characters like Majima into the story much. Like Majima and Dante had like such a little roles to play in the story. They did nothing to change the story whatsoever. Majima didn't really do anything except fail to get the Honko, and that's it. And Saejima like didn't even get introduced at all, and he got killed off. It was basically like, why introduce him if you're just gonna kill him off and not do anything with him, you know? And Dante basically failed to stop the war between the Yakuza, so why even try? He didn't do anything to mitigate the destruction either. He just failed to stop it and was like, who cares? They also butchered several like main characters like Nishiki and Kiru. Kiru's obsession with becoming the Dragon of Dojima is nothing like him in the games or even in character. The writers basically think that Kiru is defined by being the Dragon of Dojima and not that he's defining what it means to be a Yakuza and basically chasing his own ideals of being Yakuza. And Nishiki isn't the fish, and I it sounds silly, but that's basically what made him so captivating in the first place, because of basically the symbolism that's associated with. Because Nishiki wants to be better than Kiru because of his inferiority complex, and Nishiki believes that to achieve his destiny, he has to surpass Kiru. To do that, he needs to whoop his ass or kill him. Either one works. This relates to Japanese folklore by the koi swimming upstream the river and passing through the dragon gate to become the dragon. Basically, he thinks that to become a dragon, he needs to beat Kiru, who is the Dragon of Dojima. In the show, he's no longer the fish. He no longer has this inferiority complex. He's just lashing out at Kiru because his sister died, and he's lashing out against the world because his sister died, which is a more lamer story than this symbolism stuff and the koi on his back. And I think the character that was done most dirty by the series was Kazuma, because in the series, Kazuma no longer has that father-son bond he has with Nishiki and Kiru, and they both hate him when they were young. I don't think anything's changed after those 10 years. I think they still hate him, and he failed to stop the pink businessman from dying. He died a horrific death. He got swirly, and his sister from, I guess, getting in trouble. She got like arrested, and I don't know, she's probably rotting in jail. And he failed to stop the war between the Tojo clan and the Omi Alliance from breaking out. So he lost being a mastermind and having a father-son bond in the Yakuza. I think this Yakuza show is a bad show as an adaptation and as a standalone series because the Yakuza themselves and Kamurocho doesn't get fleshed out. Like, we get told that the Tojo clan is a big thing, but we don't exactly get shown that. And we don't exactly get shown what Kamurocho is and what role the Yakuza play in there. They just exist. It's like a just location. To be more specific, we don't exactly get shown the subsidiaries of the Tojo clan, like the Dojima family, the Shimano family, or any of the other families. We just get told those two. And all we just get told is that Nishiki brings in a lot of money for the higher-ups. And we don't ever get told who the higher-ups are. Also, the season's abrupt end basically means we have a lot of unanswered questions. Like, why were the Omi Alliance moving 10 billion yen in that one truck? Where were they moving it to? And number two, what was Nishiki going to do with that 10 billion yen? What was he going to do with it? He wanted to bring an end to the Yakuza, and by stealing the 10 billion yen, he basically sparked a war between them. But if both of them ever found out that, oh, he was conspiring against them, he would just get stomped out. Plus, he didn't only want to destroy the Yakuza, he wanted to destroy Kamurocho, as he put it. He wanted to destroy everything. So maybe the 10 billion yen probably played a bigger role in his plan. But I guess we'll never know. If I had to get the series a rating on a scale of 1 to 10, I would rate it a solid 4 out of 10. It's not unwatchable, but it is kind of like you need to shut off your brain a bit to like it. And even then, if you shut off your brain a bit, it kind of doesn't make any sense what's going on. You kind of have to be like, what's going on? Let me rewatch this segment. I need to rewatch this segment to figure out what's going on, because they make a lot of one-off statements. So to understand the series more, you have to rewatch some segments so you get a clearer picture of what's going on. And another thing to mention, since I already played a majority of the games, I already had a clearer image of what's going on. So to newcomers, it's pretty confusing, bouncing back and forth from the present to the past to the present to the past, and you basically confuse the audience with going back and forth. To sum up this entire video, I think the Yakuza show is a pretty bad adaptation because it basically does not capture the essence of the characters and their qualities that make them so good. And it's a pretty bad standalone series too because of its shortness. It doesn't get the opportunity to flesh out Kamurocho or the Yakuza specifically the Tojo clan and its subsidiaries, which is pretty bad if your entire series centers around the Yakuza. And the way it's structured, basically with the going back to the past and the present, it basically confuses the audience by basically showing all these characters in the past and showing all these characters in the future. And it's basically a disconnect with this story about the characters and this story about the Yakuza, where one of them is going like, oh my god, my sister's dying, or oh my god, I need to find my sister. And in the present, it's like, oh my god, the Omi Alliance and the Tojo clan are gonna go to war. What am I gonna do? And it's kind of like, yeah, I like the second story of the actual Yakuza stuff going on. And that's pretty much it. Alright.